Hi, if you're here, you probably want to understand the foundations of AI and make real sense of all the noise around governance. Maybe you're aiming to land a job, pass a certification, or simply deepen your knowledge in a way that actually sticks. I'm Brenda, an AI consultant and instructor here at Revecyber. I work with organizations that are adopting AI and trying to answer a very practical question. How do we use this technology responsibly? Just because we can deploy AI doesn't automatically mean we've implemented it safely, fairly, or in alignment with legal and ethical expectations. And that's exactly what this series is about. In this video, we'll be covering foundations of AI and why governance matters. Before we begin, here's a quick overview of what we'll cover. We'll start with what is AI? The kind of understanding you need if AI is showing up in your organization, your policies, or your risk register. Then we'll look at differentiating between AI systems, because predictive models, generative systems, and autonomous agents don't carry the same risks or governance implications. Next, we'll walk through the AI lifecycle, from data collection to deployment and retirement, and where governance should sit at each stage. And finally, we'll address the black box problem, why explainability matters, especially when decisions impact real people and regulatory accountability. Artificial intelligence, or AI, at its core, is about machines performing tasks that normally require human intelligence. Learning from data, recognizing patterns, making decisions, sometimes even creating content. It's not magic. It's math, data, and computation scaled. But here's where it gets interesting. AI doesn't just exist. It operates inside businesses, governments, hospitals, banks. It influences credit approvals, hiring decisions, fraud detection, medical diagnostics. And that's why understanding AI isn't optional anymore, especially if you care about governance. Because governance isn't about slowing innovation down. It's about asking the right questions. Questions like, is this system fair? We're not speaking philosophically here. What we want to know is if the model is treating certain groups differently because of biased training data. Is it unintentionally disadvantaging people based on gender, ethnicity, geography, or income level? If we ran a bias assessment today, would we be comfortable with the results? Because an AI system is fair when it does not produce biased or discriminatory outcomes due to skewed data, flawed assumptions, or unequal impact across demographic groups. When we ask, is it explainable? We're asking something very operational. If a regulator, auditor, or customer challenges a decision, can we clearly articulate how the model reached that outcome? Do we understand the key drivers behind its predictions? Or are we relying on a system we can't meaningfully interpret? An AI system is explainable when its decisions can be clearly interpreted, justified, and defended to regulators, auditors, and affected individuals. Then there's accountability. If the system causes harm, financial loss, reputational damage, discrimination, who owns that risk? Is it IT, compliance, the business unit, the vendor, or is responsibility unclear until something goes wrong? Because an AI system is accountable when there is clear ownership of its risks, decisions, and consequences, with defined responsibility if harm occurs. And finally, alignment with legal standards and societal values. Does this system comply with applicable data protection laws? Are we meeting emerging AI regulatory expectations? Beyond compliance, would we defend this system publicly if its decision-making process were exposed? An AI system is aligned when it complies with applicable laws and regulatory expectations, while reflecting broader societal values around safety, ethics, and human rights. These are not theoretical questions. They are governance checkpoints. And the organizations that ask them early avoid very expensive lessons later. I work with individuals and organizations navigating this space, and I see it firsthand. The excitement, yes, but also the blind spots. The real value of AI shows up when it's implemented responsibly, not recklessly. The goal isn't to fear AI, it's to understand it well enough to manage it. And honestly, that's what governance is. Not control for control's sake, but intentional oversight. So as you explore AI, whether you're technical, strategic, or just curious, ask yourself, are we just chasing capability? Or are we building something we can actually defend, explain, and trust? Most AI systems fall into three buckets. And chances are you're already interacting with all three, probably before lunch. First, we have predictive AI. This is the type of system that learns from historical data and uses those insights to anticipate future outcomes. It analyzes large volumes of past activity, identifies patterns at scale, and applies those patterns to forecast what is most likely to happen next. You see it in fraud detection within banks, in recommendation engines like Netflix, suggesting what you might watch next. Even when your bank flags an unusual transaction at 2 a.m., that's predictive AI at work. It's not reacting emotionally, it's assessing probability and predicting risk based on prior behavior. At its core, predictive AI is about one thing: using past data to estimate what is most likely to happen next. Now, generative AI. This is the one everyone's excited and slightly nervous about. This is the AI that creates. It writes, it designs, it generates images, code, music, videos, sometimes things that look uncannily human. If predictive AI says, here's what might happen, generative AI says, here, I made something new. You've probably used it. ChatGPT, Midjourney, Copilot. That email draft you touched up but didn't really write from scratch? Exactly. Then we have autonomous agents. This is where things get interesting. These systems don't just predict or create, they act. They make decisions and execute tasks without waiting for you to click a button. Think trading bots adjusting portfolios in real time, or AI systems automatically isolating a compromised server before an analyst even wakes up. No hand-holding, just decision, action. Here's what most people don't talk about. These three types of AI show up at different stages of the AI lifecycle. From data collection to model training to deployment and even decommissioning, each type carries different implications. AI isn't build and forget. It evolves, it's monitored, it's retrained, and sometimes it's retired. So when someone says, we're implementing AI, the real question is, which type? Predictive? Generative? Autonomous? Because that choice changes everything: the risks, the controls, the governance requirements, and the potential impact. And if you pause for a moment, which one are you most comfortable with? The one that predicts? The one that creates? Or the one that acts independently? That answer usually says a lot about your governance maturity. AI governance isn't a final step. It's not something you sprinkle on at the end to look compliant. It starts with data collection. Data collection is the process of gathering raw information that will be used to train or operate an AI system. That data could come from customer transactions, website activity, medical records, HR systems, sensors, or third-party vendors. In real life, think about it. A bank collecting transaction histories. A hospital gathering patient diagnostic data. An e-commerce platform tracking user behavior. Before a single model is trained, governance asks, where is this data coming from? Do we have legal rights and valid consent to use it? Is it complete? Is it biased? Is it representative? Because if your input data is flawed, incomplete, or discriminatory, the model will amplify those flaws. Governance at this stage is about data quality, legality, privacy, and fairness, before risk becomes embedded into the system. Then comes model training. Model training is the process of feeding data into an algorithm so it can learn patterns and generate predictions or outputs. This is where data turns into decision logic. In practice, this might look like training a fraud detection model on years of financial transactions, training a hiring model on historical employee performance data, training a medical model on diagnostic imaging. This is also where risk can quietly take shape. Governance asks, is the model fair across demographics? Does it overfit to historical patterns that may reflect past bias? Can we explain how it reached a decision? Would we defend this model if it were audited? Accuracy alone is not a sufficient metric. A model can perform well statistically and still introduce systemic bias. Training is where responsibility becomes embedded in code. Next is deployment, when the model moves from development into real-world use. Deployment means integrating the AI system into live systems where it begins influencing decisions. At this stage, the AI system is being introduced into live operations to fulfill its intended purpose. Approving or flagging loans, adjusting insurance premiums, filtering job applications, generating content, detecting fraud, or supporting medical diagnoses. And this is where many organizations relax too soon. Because governance at deployment means continuous oversight, it means asking important operational questions such as, is the model drifting as new data comes in? Model drift occurs when real-world data changes over time, causing the model's predictions to become less accurate or less reliable than when it was originally trained. Is performance degrading? Is it being used beyond its original scope? Are humans still appropriately reviewing high-risk outcomes? Once AI impacts real people, governance shifts from design control to operational control. And finally, decommissioning. Yes, even AI systems need retirement plans. Decommissioning is the structured and controlled retirement of an AI model when it is no longer effective, compliant, aligned with business objectives, or within acceptable risk thresholds. This might happen because performance has declined, regulations have changed, a better model has replaced it, or new risks have emerged. In order to properly govern this stage, questions such as the following have to be answered. What happens to the data the model relied on? Are we retaining or securely deleting it in line with privacy and regulatory requirements? Do we need to preserve audit logs or decision records? Have we formally documented why the model is being retired? What lessons did its lifecycle reveal about bias, performance, or oversight gaps? Decommissioning is not simply turning a system off. It is about ensuring there is no residual risk, no unmanaged data exposure, and no compliance liability left behind. Because governance does not end when the model stops running. It ends when risk has been fully addressed and institutional learning has been captured. Let's talk about the black box problem and why it makes even seasoned engineers pause. You know that slightly uncomfortable feeling when an AI system gives you an answer and you think, okay, but how did you get there? That's the black box problem. It refers to the lack of transparency in how many AI systems make decisions. In complex models, especially deep learning systems, inputs go in and outputs come out, but the internal reasoning process is difficult to interpret, even for the developers who built the model. This creates a situation where we can see the decision, we can measure the accuracy, but we cannot clearly explain how the system arrived at that outcome. In high-impact environments, banking, healthcare, hiring, law enforcement, this opacity becomes a governance challenge. If a customer is denied a loan, if a patient receives a diagnosis, if a job applicant is screened out, because the model said so is not an acceptable explanation. The black box problem raises fundamental governance concerns around transparency, accountability, auditability, trust. This is why explainable AI, XAI, matters, because organizations need to answer very human questions. Questions like, why was this decision made? What factors influenced it? Can we demonstrate that it wasn't biased? Would we be comfortable explaining this outcome publicly? Explainability doesn't always mean simplifying the model. Sometimes it means adding interpretability layers, using surrogate models, tracking feature importance, or implementing post hoc explanation tools. The goal isn't to remove complexity, it's to make decisions defensible. Here's the reality. Powerful AI often trades off transparency for performance. The more complex the model, the harder it is to interpret. So organizations have to consciously decide where they stand. Maximum performance at any cost, or slightly less accuracy in exchange for clarity and control. If your AI system had to justify its last decision to an external auditor tomorrow, would you feel confident? That question is the heart of the black box problem. If you've stayed with me this far, you understand what AI actually is, why governance matters, and why this conversation is really important. This is about building systems that impact real people, real businesses, and real decisions. But this was just the beginning. In the next videos, we're going deeper and practical. We'll break down the core pillars of trustworthy AI, what truly makes an AI system reliable, defensible, and aligned with human values. Not just nice-sounding principles, but what they mean operationally. Then we'll step into data governance and privacy, because AI runs on data, and if the data isn't properly governed, nothing else matters. Ownership, consent, bias, security. This is where governance either stands strong or collapses. After that, we'll unpack risk management and safety, model drift, bias amplification, security vulnerabilities, over-reliance. We'll talk about identifying AI-specific risks and putting real controls in place before they become public incidents. We'll also explore the global regulatory landscape. What's happening with the EU AI Act and other emerging regulations, and why they matter even if you're not operating in Europe. And finally, we'll close with something many organizations struggle with: operationalizing governance. Because frameworks are one thing, implementation is another. Policies, oversight structures, risk registers, monitoring mechanisms. What does this actually look like in practice? If you're serious about understanding AI governance at a foundational and strategic level, stay with me. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss the next sessions. If you'd like to go deeper in a structured, live, instructor-led environment, visit Revecyber.com to enroll in our upcoming classes. We're not just talking about AI, we're building the competence to govern it responsibly. See you in the next one.